Welcome to Geocache Adventures with me, Shadow Dragon 1, where I discuss geocaching and my adventures with it. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts or on the Geocache Adventures Facebook page. You can also sign up for the Geocache Adventures newsletter, which features upcoming episode information, behind the scenes articles, and other fun articles and information. This interview was recorded using Zoom and may sound different than other podcast audio. Hello, everybody. Amy Shadow Dragon 1 here, and with me is returning guest Scott Miller, aka GSM times 2. You may remember him from Season 2, Episode 9, Refreshing the Game Board, and Season 2, Episode 17, talking about the Route 66 Adventure Lab series. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to be back. I'm really excited about this topic.
Well, for those who have no idea, we're going to talk about Adventure Labs, which you have some experience, quite a bit of experience, thanks to the Route 66 series. So as far as Adventure Labs go, tell us what your stats are for those.
For Adventure Labs, I have found 970 locations. And because of my involvement in Route 66 and also Highway 1 and also the Lincoln Highway and also the 50th anniversary Landsat Geo Tour, I have an extraordinary number of that I've created. And then also I have a family member who gets them but doesn't use them. So my stats are I've created 50 locations. My family member has created 40 locations. For Landsat in Lompoc, we did 15 locations, and so that gives me 105 locations that I've created. Plus, I have been beta testing, I think at least 6 for different people. So yeah, I guess I have a fair amount of experience.
You've done, let's just say, a little bit involving them all.
That's a fact.
So before we get into more about Adventure Labs, how's the Route 66 series going?
Oh my gosh, it is doing fabulous, Amy. We have, as I told you, 88 geocachers have created, and they're all public, 94 adventures. If you go to our website, which is route66gc.org, that's route66gc.org, you can see all the maps, and it's an amazing little website there.
We'll link to that in the show notes as well, so people can
Please
find
do.
that easily, because it is really great. If you just want to check out what's near you, you can pop on there and pull up your area or see everything from California to Chicago, what all you got in between there.
Absolutely. It's there's over 850 locations.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot.
But stretched over 2,440 miles, it's not that many.
Both of those numbers sound really big to me. So
They are.
you've been getting a good response, good feedback from geocachers doing the series?
Getting tremendous feedback from geocachers doing the series. Our ratings are all between 4.5 and 5. Lots of activity. I was just looking at the one that I set, which is from Needles to Goffs, which is in the middle of nowhere in eastern California, and it is my number one performer. It has over 40 people have done it, and the rating is 4.8, which I think is pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It is. And we just had the first person complete them all. Twalare, Twlare, is from Washington, and she set off and started in Chicago and finished. And I was really excited because she came out here as I was hosting a GIF event, and we met. And afterwards, I'm like, well, do you want to go to dinner? What do you want to do? She's like, oh, it's light out. I want to go geocaching. And she suggested, hey, can we go ahead and do Hollywood to Santa Monica? So I had the opportunity to go with her and two other people, and we went to do the westernmost adventure for on the Route 66 series. And it was great. It was fabulous to talk about her experiences and all the things that she had done.
So she is the first to complete every single one along the route.
Yes, yes,
Wow, that's amazing.
that was amazing. Yeah, it took her about 3 weeks worth of travel time to do that.
Wow,
Yep.
that's a big trip.
Yeah, it's a bucket list trip.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, have you had a chance since it goes through Missouri? Have you had a chance to go down there by St. Louis and do some of them?
I unfortunately have not. I have not
Okay.
been doing a lot of geocaching. The last several months have been, let's just say, very busy home wise with
Okay.
different things. And unfortunately, my amount of geocaching has been minimal since really since Moga back in May was the last real big geocaching I personally got to do. I did get to do Labor Day weekend. We went to the St. Louis Zoo, and there happens to be two adventure labs at different points around inside the zoo.
Ooh,
So I
how fun.
managed to hit both of those while we were there. But other than that, it's been pretty minimal geocaching for me, unfortunately. Although I did look it up, and there is one, and this is going to sound horrible. I think it's like maybe 30 minutes from me, and I just have not been out there to do it yet, but it is very much on my list.
Very good. And when you and your muggle husband need a little time off and to take the kids with, take the child with you, go out and do some of them. I think he's really going to like them, and we know that, and I forget his name. Sorry, um,
We call him
would
Bubby.
like him all too. Bubby, I know that
Bubby,
Bubby
yeah.
would like him because he gets to navigate and all
He
that.
does like to help navigate. That's if he goes geocaching with me, he wants to help navigate.
Perfect.
So there's another series that's going on in California right now as well, isn't there?
There is. I have so much fun doing the Route 66, organizing the Route 66, that I went ahead and organized the California Highway 1 series, and uh, and goes it goes California Highway 1 runs from Dana Point up to Mendocino County, and we have 58 people who are doing that, and they're all but one is public. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
that should be public, I think, in the next 3 weeks. So, yeah, a lot of fun.
How many stretches of miles is that highway? Do you know?
I'm going to say 325, but that might be wrong. But
That's still a good stretch. And
it
are
really
they
is, and it's Highway 1. Highway 1 going through Big Sur and up north of San Francisco. It's some of the most beautiful highway in the United States, perhaps even the world. And the challenging part of that is that much of the highway, I would think maybe over 150 miles of it, there's not going to be reliable internet connection. And in parts of it, there'll be no internet connection.
Yes, which when you're using a smartphone makes things a little tricky. But you have told me there's a workaround for this. So please, I cannot wait to hear this. How do you do an adventure lab offline?
And I'm so glad you asked that because I think this is a misconception that you have to be online to do adventure labs. And actually, I thought that too. And actually, what happened is I went ahead and did my adventure lab up on the Lincoln Highway. Um, and when I got home, I looked and realized that two out of the three major wireless carriers, they don't even pretend that they have internet connection through 35 miles of that. And I'm like, oh my God, this
Wow.
is terrible. So I started experimenting around, and found out that the app actually does play fairly well um, offline. And then what really solidified it for me is just 2 weeks ago, I was going up to Monterey and, of course, wanted to do the California Highway 1 Adventure Labs up there. And there were two of them, 20 locations, and for 50 miles, there is no internet connection. So I'm like, okay, I'm really going to try and figure out how to do this. So here's what I figured out. And I actually have a link with step-by-step directions. It's a bit.ly link, so bit.ly, and it's 3 Charlie Zulu Zulu 3 Little Yankee 7. Those Charlie Zulu Zulus were capitalized.
I'll include that link in the show notes as well.
Absolutely. And so here's what I learned. I learned the first thing you need to do is close all the apps. And then it has to be a non-sequential adventure. A sequentials can't be done offline because you have to, answer the questions before you go to the next one. And
Okay.
offline, you cannot answer the questions.
Okay. So if it requires you to go to A, B, C first in a specific order, this doesn't work.
This is not going to work.
Okay. Good to
Exactly.
know.
Yes. Um, the compass works, the GPS works. I just kind of equate this to the same as doing geocaching offline. You're going to have all the information, uh, and you can read, and the compass works, and the GPS is working. You just can't submit your answers, and that's what happens here. You cannot uh, submit your answers. So the next thing you want to do is go ahead and get into the adventure when you have internet connection. Get into the adventure, hit start, and then pick a location, and then turn on the compass. And by turning on the compass, your screen is going to stay on all the time, and that's
Okay.
very important. Then, two things: put the phone in airplane mode and turn off Wi-Fi because you don't want to accidentally get on just because you're driving by a Starbucks. And then connect it to a power source because, as most people know, the app uses a lot of
It's going to
battery,
drain the battery. Yeah.
and with the screen on all the time, it's going to drain more. So you have to make sure you plug into a power source. The
Okay.
key is make sure that the Adventure Lab app does not close. Make sure the adventure doesn't close.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Other thing I learned is you cannot run Waze or Google Maps and probably other navigation programs because they will turn off the Adventure Lab app. If you've ever done it while you have internet connection, you will notice when you go back, the Adventure Lab app has to reload, and it's not going to have an internet connection to be able to reload.
Okay. So we need a secondary device if you need navigation to where you're
If you
going.
Yeah, this might be the time to break out that old Nuvi or the TomTom and utilize that.
MapQuest. Old school
MapQuest,
printed directions.
old school printed directions. Exactly. Some other, because I don't know if on my phone the arrow does not work well. It's I haven't figured out that why, but anyways, it doesn't. Um, I have tested to see can I go ahead and geocache as I'm doing this. And as long as prepare your geocaches for offline use. I've run it with GeoGo, I ran it with the official app, and I ran it with CGO, and all of them allowed this. I could go ahead and switch from the app to the from the geocaching app to the Adventure Lab app without it affecting and closing. So
Okay.
that was really good news. I also found out and can confirm that the camera will work, but one of the things you want to make sure you do is change back to the Adventure Lab app after you've taken the picture so the screen doesn't turn off, so the phone doesn't put itself into a sleep mode because it's in camera
Okay.
mode.
So if it
So
goes into sleep, it's going to kick you out, possibly.
it is going to kick you out. Yep.
Okay.
So again, it's very similar to working offline geocaching. So let's see. Yeah, and just like geocaching, you can't log your log if you don't have an internet connection. Same thing here. You can't connect to the GCHQ servers to log answer, but answer will come up when you get within the geofencing. When it comes up, you want to go ahead and you can answer it. If you answer incorrectly, just like even if you're online, it'll immediately display incorrect answer.
Really?
If yes, if you are in airplane mode and you give a correct answer, it will immediately reply, correct answers cannot be submitted without a connection. So you know that you have the answer correct.
Oh, that's really interesting.
It really is. That was like, oh, there's a little bonus that I learned just a couple of weeks ago. So after you answer it, what you want to do is either screenshot or write down the question, write down the answer, write down, make some notes. So when you get back into internet connection, you remember what the answer is. So, and then once you answer it, you're not, if you're online, it'll just go next closest. Since it hasn't communicated with the GCHQ servers, it can't do that. So you have to go back and do the back arrow to the map. You can use the list icon or the map and choose what your next location is going to be, and just continue to do that until you've done all of the adventure, and you get back to a place where you have reliable internet coverage. When you have reliable internet coverage, just open the app, open the adventure, and it'll say resume, and just hit resume. Every every location it will say answer, not get closer, and you just answer them, and then say next, get the next closest, and just answer them all, and you've done it.
Huh.
So that that's the essence of how to do it. Now, what you want to do is practice. Practice it before you need it. So go locally, find an adventure to do, put your phone in an airplane, or load the adventure, just like I said, put your phone in airplane mode, turn off the Wi-Fi, and then follow the directions, follow what's in that my little printout, and make sure that you know how to use it, and you should be all set.
That is really interesting that it, when you get back online, you're good to go. And because normally you have to be within the, so many feet of the location to
Hmm.
be able to answer the question.
Yeah. And the Bitly document actually gives some useful strategies and information about using multiple phones. I'll give you one. The phone remembers where it is. It doesn't remember who was logged in when it was there. So,
Ah,
so a friend of mine, she and her husband went out and did an adventure lab. He lost the internet connection. He lost it unloaded. So she gets back and she's like, well, husband's going to have to go back and do these too. And I reminded her, take your phone, log him in, and he can answer those questions. So
interesting.
it is. And there's some other interesting strategies on that Bitly. So it's worth downloading and taking a look.
Definitely gonna have to check that out.
Definitely.
So, okay, that I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of this. That is a neat loophole. That is a really neat loophole for Adventure Labs.
Yeah, loophole is not the right word.
Maybe not the right word, but that's the one that comes to
it's a
mind.
great feature. It's a great feature in Adventure Labs, and yeah, and I don't share that log
Loophole
in,
for
log out.
internet access, I should say.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
Yep.
Nice.
So, Yeah, so that has been an interesting journey since February until 2 weeks ago when I had to actually put it very much into use to get these two adventures where there were absolutely no internet access, and uh, and it worked pretty well.
How did you how did you figure this out?
Over time, and doing.
Did you just play around with it and figure it out, or did somebody say, "Hey, you might try this," or did
I, you know, I figured it out, but I figured it out over time. I as soon as I realized that I had to do something to be able for people to be able to do the uh, the Lincoln Highway one, I started to work on it, and then it wasn't until going up to Monterey and knowing that I had to do these two and I had to figure out a way to do it. And then the way that I did it is I loaded one adventure on one phone, and I had an old phone that doesn't have data connection, but it can hook to the Wi-Fi. So I was hooked to the Wi-Fi, I loaded it
okay.
onto that, and then did exactly what I said. Now, on the way back, I actually only did one of them on the way up. I was going to do the other, but it was dark, and I'm like, listen, I didn't come up to Highway 1 to do an adventure lab in the dark. So I'm going to do this on my way home. And on my way home, I had the same adventure on two phones, and I got to the last one, and I started taking pictures, and I forgot to go back. Well, this is actually where I learned get it back to the because it
Oh,
lost connection, and there I am. I've done nine of them. I'm actually about 25 miles either direction from an internet access, but I had it on the other phone, so I answered it on the other phone, got back, and nine of them I was able to log on one phone, and the 10th I was able to log on the other phone.
wow. Lessons learned.
Yeah, an important lesson learned that I'm gladly passing on to other people.
Wow.
Yep. So I think that's the most important part. But, you know, been finding a lot of adventures, have a lot of experience and seen some really good ones. And, you know, I think with the adventures, since people are only getting one or two, they're really doing a good job with them. They're doing what I think the best job they can. And some people do really great, and some people do, the best they can.
So, with so many people, because I know they're trying to sort of spotlight adventure labs, or at least they have earlier this year, they were trying to spotlight and kind of get adventure labs, adventure caches, however you want to phrase them at this point. I've heard people refer to them as both. So, a lot of people are sitting on credits and they're just maybe not sure what to do with them. You've helped create so many and been involved in the process of so many. Can you maybe give us some ideas of how to just kind of even get started with an idea?
I think I can because I think I've done enough that I've actually made progress. I've seen, my first ones are at a certain level, and things doing now are a little bit different level. And then I've seen some really great ones. So I'll give you some things that I've seen uh, other people do. One, I've I think that it's really nice when you have a theme. People set out geocaches in a series, and that seems to attract people to do the series. Even if it's a series of, the Seven Dwarfs, people are just attracted to those kind of series. So go ahead and try and come up with a theme. Uh, Two themes that I've really enjoyed. SB Dave, he loves beer, he loves breweries, so he created Craft Breweries of Ventura, California, and we just went from one craft brewery to another craft brewery. Social Anxiety loves Santa Barbara. She lives down in Los Angeles. They go up to Santa Barbara frequently, and she's created the whimsical architecture walking tour of Santa Barbara, and it is so cute. It's adorable.
I love
So
that I haven't even done it, but I already love that it's a walking tour because there are so many adventure labs near me where you go to one location, then you got to drive 20 minutes to the next location, and it's 15 to another. And to be able to do a walking tour is just really nice.
it really is. I mean, you're going to walk a mile or a mile and a half, something like that, but it's a walking tour. So yeah, and it's great. Um, and then one thing I did is I've gone ahead, and you can put this in the show notes also. I created a PDF worksheet that I can take out into the field, or other people can take out into the field, and it helps them get all the information at one time. Basically, it's just the pages in the builder condensed into a PDF. And so you're out there and oh, got to take there. I'm going to use that picture. I'm going to use those. There's my coordinates. Here's my little short description. And I think that's a useful tool. So again, that'll be a link in the show notes. Another thing that I have really loved is when people take these tours beyond what R. Reagan up in the Bay Area, he calls them he came up with the term magical history tour, kind of like a magical mystery tour, but magical history
Okay.
tour. And, because that's what a lot of them are. It certainly is what a lot of them are on the Route 66, almost by necessity. But other people have come up with some really good things. One of them, DNF Hound, he has a story in Pasadena called They Will Come from Outer Space." And and the premise is somebody is giving you a warning that in the year 2087, aliens are going to land and there's going to be a fight for survival. Let me read you one of the locations.
Okay.
In the year 2089, in the year 2087, aliens from space will arrive at this exact location where you stand right now. Don't ask me how I know. We've been over this. He's taking you to a hat shop, but rather than talk about the hat shop, he's made a story here. And at first, when the aliens arrive, people will be excited. I mean, aliens, actual like visitors from space. And they will not look intimidating. They will average about 4 foot tall, and the length of their sideburns will seem endearing. They will promise to share the advanced technology. They will lull us into a false sense of security. And here it begins, on this spot, the fight for survival against the Mesozavarians. Isn't that better than at this building was built in 1949 and is an example of some architecture?
That is a really neat twist. I mean, architecture, don't get me wrong, I do like the architecture stuff, but I haven't yet to see. Granted, I have not done nearly as many adventure labs myself as you have, but I have yet to see one that takes this type of twist on it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Another one, Share Bear 64, The Case of the Fingered Killer. It's a mystery, and she takes you to place to place to place, and you actually have to solve this mystery. Now, this is going to be our featured cache highlight. So I'm not going to say much more. I'm not going to say anything more about it now, but we'll talk about it as the cache highlight.
These
Another,
adventure labs that you're talking about, they kind of remind me of some where I goes in a way that I've seen people do, where
yes,
it's set up as a story instead of just location points.
Amy, that's a great. I had not thought about that, but that is a great way for people to look at this. If you have a where I go idea, why not make an adventure lab out of it? Uh, it's much easier to do than
Yeah,
where I goes. And then yeah, that's fabulous. I'm really glad you shared that because I can incorporate that.
that's neat. I like that.
Yeah. Another one, the Landsat and Lompoc, it, their 15th anniversary, or I'm sorry, their 50th anniversary. Landsat is that is the part of NASA. They put up the satellites, and the satellites are
Mm-hmm.
taking images of the Earth, and they're also taking thermal readings and all kinds of things. And for their adventure lab, it was a 15 location adventure lab. We took you to locations that demonstrate how they benefit, how Landsat benefits. For example, we took you to a burn area. So you're in the middle of a burn area, and we talk about how they use their mapping to predict where the fires are going, to map where the fires are. That's all Landsat. Take you to the ocean where we can talk about red tides and algae blooms that are destructive, and another, take you to a little farm stand, but the description talks about the benefits of Landsat to agriculture. And so that was really good. I mean,
That's
it's
neat.
it's more than just the magical history tour. This is a practical use. And then to do that, to make people so that they would read the descriptions, because this is educational, um, we went ahead and put every question has two parts to it. One part of it is, um, you know, read this sign and whatever, what year was the dam built. But
Mm-hmm.
the other part is, and in the description, what is this?
Ah, nice.
So that's kind of a little hint I'm going to pass on to people who are making these is invite people to read those descriptions.
You've really got the gears in my head turning now because there's so when you I'm just floored because I never thought of an adventure lab in this type of way because I'm used to you go to the place, you answer the question about the location,
Right.
and here we have stories, we have history. You could even turn this into sort of like an earth cache in a way and do a geology type
Uh,
series with it. And there's so much you can do with these adventure labs.
and I'm not encouraging this because I don't really do missed puzzles, but why not a puzzle adventure lab?
You could.
Exactly.
You could.
You
Where
absolutely
you
could.
get the answers at yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So start thinking beyond, read the plaque, tell me the date. Um, One of the things that I love about creating adventure labs is the research and just all the little rabbit holes that I find. I just like will have an idea. Okay, I'm going to this location, and I'm going to go to the train station in Oceano. But then I get there and I find out that there's a house that belonged to some of the Dunites. And I'm like, what the heck is a Dunite? And I found out. And now that's in the adventure. The education of the Dunites. They're people who lived in the dunes of Pismo Beach, which are huge dunes, since about 1930, about 1927 till about 1944, and they were philosophers and vagabonds and just interesting people. Interesting people came and visited them, and yeah, it was. So as you're creating these, find the rabbit holes and chase the rabbit holes. Um, Another thing I like to do, and I am encouraging people to do, is engage the participants in the descriptions. I was doing Snoopy Rock's historical Route 66 from Hollywood to Santa Monica, and when I got done, I was like, God, those were really interesting descriptions. Why? And it's because she brought me into it. More than just B being a plaque, the equivalent of a plaque of, this is a historical building, it was built in nine, and so on and so forth. She's like, in 1927, if you were here, well, let me use another one, the Troubadour. she's like the Troubadour hosted, James Dean or James Taylor and Carole King and you know and she just brought me into this whole adventure, and I thought that was really nice. Another thing, and I just talked about this, was reward the people who read the descriptions. You know, we all are putting a lot, almost everybody is putting a lot of effort into creating these descriptions. They're taking this information, they're having to condense it down or expand it out to 200 words or 1,024 characters. And geocachers are not used to reading descriptions. We're used to follow the arrow, find the container, sign the log, go get the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But but I really encourage people, they're taking you to interesting places. Geocachers often say it's the places that you get to go. That's one of the attractions. Well, stop and enjoy some of those places that you get to go. Don't just answer the question and run off to the next one. Stop, look, learn, listen, and enjoy. Um, so one of the things that I have started to do, one of the progressions that I make, is I help the person find the answer in the description. I'll say the answer you seek is on this plaque or is over here. So if somebody
Okay.
doesn't read the description, they're kind of a little advantage when I ask, and what year is on that plaque?
So, sort of some hints to help guide you to the answer built
Hints.
into the description.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Um, make your questions and answers clear. Um, if your answers, for example, if your answer is 2 words with a space and then a number, put that in the question so that they know what format to respond in. So
Okay.
just makes it easier. And then I think the last thing is when I first started doing these, spoof proofing was high on my agenda.
So, what do
Um,
you mean by spoof proofing?
okay. They put geofencing in to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that people go to the area.
Mm-hmm.
There are apps that will spoof your location, make your phone think it's someplace else.
Okay.
If you go into the App Store and type spoof your phone, you will see an entire list of apps that will help you do that. Probably created by, students who are telling their mom they're going to the library and they're not. Uh, you know, and others, other notorious reasons. But you can have couch logging for adventure labs, and to spoof proof, a lot of people will say, so what's the number on the telephone pole, or what's written on the sewer grate, things that
Mm,
nobody would take a picture of, you can't look up online.
right.
It, it occurs to me after all these times that, I want to have the best adventure for the person who's doing it the correct way.
Yeah.
So rather than sending them to the telephone pole, I'm going to send them over here to what I want them to look at. And yeah, if somebody can couch log it, well, fine. Go couch log it. Congratulations. But I really want the person who's doing it the correct way to have the best experience.
So, focus more on the people who are actually out there instead of trying to prevent people from avoiding going out there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well put.
Okay. You talked a little bit earlier about beta testing. Tell
Yes.
us why that's important.
Oh
I'm
my
sure there
gosh.
are people out there that are like, I never beta test anything. Why even bother? And I'm sure there are very legitimate reasons for why we need to do that. I'm sure you have probably experienced a few of them with some of these big series that you have put together, helped put together.
And I've beta tested, and I have people beta test mine. I actually my local one, I go out anytime I find somebody who's going to go do it. I try and meet up with them and just watch them do it. Because every time I do, it gets better. A beta test, the purpose of beta testing, A, is to check the geofencing, and B, to to watch somebody do it, to get them to beta test it, what you want to do. And there's a little, I want to clarify something. You can put your adventure in a test mode. In a
Mm-hmm.
test mode, that's something that you can use so that as you're creating it, you can make sure everything works. There's no geofencing in place. You just click through and you make sure the pictures look the way you want the pictures to look.
Right.
Make sure the wording is working the way that you want it to. What you want to do is put it in private mode. Put it in
Okay.
private mode, send the link or the QR code to the person who's going to beta test it. Now, it is active, but nobody else except they can see it. And
Okay.
so when they do it, they're doing it, and they're actually getting credit for it too. So go out with them, resist the temptation to say anything, and watch them do it, you know, because suddenly you're going to find out that there's a second plaque there that you weren't even aware. So you're asking for something for one plaque, and they have found another one, and they're frustrated that they can't answer it. um,
Okay.
and you'll find that maybe the geofencing is off. On one of the Landsats I had, my family member go out and found out that we cannot physically get into the geofencing the way that I had set the geofencing up. So,
Oh.
and suddenly you're going to find on one, the plants were growing over the place that the person wanted, where the answer was. And she
Kind of hard to
that
find the
was
answer.
kind of
Yeah.
having the answer when it's growing over by plants. So that's what beta testing is, and that's how you do the beta testing. Put it in private, send them the link or the QR code, and then go out with them and try and be as quiet as possible.
Okay. So here lately, we're seeing adventure labs starting to have bonus caches.
Yes,
So, I
great
mean, the
thing.
whole point of the adventure lab seems to be going to a physical location and experiencing something at the location versus finding a container. So, why are people adding these bonus caches to make you go to another physical place to find a container?
Good question. Um, I think there's a couple of reasons. One, and now people can actually be notified that an adventure lab published or went public in their area. Used to not be able to do that, but it's still good to go, and a lot of people will have notifications for mystery caches, and so they'll get a notification that, hey, there's a new mystery just published, and look, it's an adventure lab. It's a bonus to the adventure lab. And also for the person who created the adventure lab right now does not tell us when somebody has completed it.
Right.
So if you have a bonus and somebody completes the bonus and logs it, then you're going to get the email, you're going to get the notification, oh, somebody did do it. So that's another reason. And I think it just kind of ties in better for geocaching. It gives you a geocaching experience doing the adventure lab so that you get a little, at the end, you get to actually find the container, sign the log, and that's what you got into geocaching for. So it gives a nice little tie-in for that. Um, but not everybody wants to set a bonus cache. You know, the ones on the Route 66 and the California have one. Sometimes the people are more than 100 miles away. They can't even set one unless they find somebody locally to take care of it. So here's something, and not my idea, but I love the idea, is have a trackable attached to your adventure so that when somebody completes it, the journal pops up and says, feel free to discover this trackable. And if they
Oh,
discover the trackable, my goodness, once again, you get a notification that somebody discovered your trackable, and you know that somebody finished your worked on your adventure lab.
that's an
So
interesting idea.
that was a that I was glad to see somebody from Route 66 came up with that idea, and I was really pleased to it.
So it would be a trackable that's just designated to the
Yep,
adventure lab, and people would just get the information to discover it when they complete it.
yep, yep. That's
Interesting.
my family member, her Route 66. She has a Route 66 trackable attached to that, and it's it's in her collection, but people can find it and log it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, how do you tie a bonus cache to an adventure lab?
Um, by mentioning each in the other one. So mention the Adventure Lab on the cache page. Mention the GC code on your adventure page so that people know that they're attached, and that works very well.
So the I've done one adventure lab that had a bonus cache, and in that case, to get the coordinates of the actual physical location of the bonus cache, it came up as you answered questions in the adventure lab. Are they
Yes.
all intended to work that way
No, they're not.
or not?
Actually, our Route 66 and our California Highway 1, um, we set a standard that you had to be able to get the coordinates in one or two of the adventures. And the bonus had to be within 2 miles of those locations. That was something I learned doing the Lincoln Highway. I'm doing the Lincoln Highway. There's 10 locations. As I'm going along, I'm collecting 10 pieces of information.
Mm-hmm.
I get done and find out in two cases that the bonus is in one case 29 miles behind me, and in the other 34 miles behind me,
Mm.
and did not want to do that.
Yeah,
So so that's if you're doing something in a park where you're walking around, it's fine to go ahead and reveal them one at a time. But yeah, if you're gonna, as you described, go someplace, drive 15 miles, drive 20 miles, and then find out that your bonus isn't anywhere near you. Um, that kind of is bad. And I guess the other thing that I would pass on is try not to make your adventures sequential. Even if some people, and myself included, my first one, I made it sequential because it made sense to make this little counterclockwise circle and wind up where the bonus was. But I wound up instead just making it non-sequential and saying, I recommend you do this counterclockwise so you wind up where the bonus is, but you can do it in any order.
okay.
And, because not everybody's coming in the same direction. And if there is anything wrong with the adventure and you can't answer one question, you're done and
Yeah.
finished. And that's frustrating. So, if it's non-sequential, you can go on and contact the CO and say, hey, I was there. I was not able to find the answer. Could you let me know what it is? And because the phone knows where it was, and you can just go ahead and answer the question at any time.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah. And I guess, and also realize, a lot of people say, oh, these adventure labs are great. They don't take any maintenance. That's not true.
That's not entirely true. Yeah.
No, the best example I could give was the person who did the Adventure Lab, the Route 66 Adventure Lab through Texas, just used some signs on the street for his locations. Two of those signs got hit by cars
Mm,
and are down and not answerable. So
right. They,
And I've heard many, many stories of that happening.
yeah, maybe it should be they tend to take less maintenance, but still may require some, might be the better way to look
Yeah,
at it.
the log's not going to get wet,
The log's not going to get wet.
but that's about the
Containers
one
aren't
thing
going to
you can say.
crack unless there's a
Containers aren't going to
bonus.
crack. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to worry
So
about people doing throwdowns on you because they can't find your
right.
container.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's also important to know that the bonuses do have to meet all the requirements of of a mystery cache.
Okay.
So, so they, including the proximity 2 miles from home, and and the proximity 528 feet from each other, and so forth. So realize that when you're going to set one down, make sure that it meets all those requirements.
So you've got your bonus, you got your AL set up, you got your bonus cache ready. When we create adventure labs, we don't have to submit those to reviewers at this point in time, like your
That's correct.
traditional caches.
Yes.
But if you have a bonus, it's going to go to a reviewer. So if
Yes.
there's something special that you have to do to let them know it's a bonus, or does the reviewer, it may not even necessarily matter to the reviewer. I really have no idea. Is that a thing?
From what I'm hearing, what you want to do is check with your local reviewers, because some reviewers are handling things differently than other reviewers. So communicate with your reviewers. Say, I'm going to be setting a bonus cache um, when it can, and I'd like to make it public about the time that it publishes, and ask him what him or her what they should do. Because some reviewers, I'm aware, they require that the adventure be public before they publish publish the bonus. Um, our reviewers they will work with us, and if we say, I would like this bonus to publish on this day and time, then it will, and then I can make my bonus I can make my adventure public the same time as it gets published, and that's a
Okay.
great scenario, but it's apparently not universally available.
Okay. That's good information to know, because yeah, you don't want to have your adventure lab out and then it possibly be 2 or 3 weeks before your bonus cache gets published, or sometimes longer if you have to find a different location for it, or any hiccups occur when you're trying to place it.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Eh, eh, In my world, it's ideal if they do it, if they go public and publish at the same time. But
That would,
to do that, you definitely have to be communicating with the reviewer and have them review it and make sure it's meeting all the proper criteria.
it kind of reminds me of trying to do a geo art and needing to coordinate with the reviewer to make sure everything goes live at the same time.
Yep, exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
that's good to know. So we've got some great tips for getting ideas to create some. We've got some great information on the bonus caches.
There's one thing that I meant to bring up,
Okay,
and this is a little hint for people who are finding uh,
that's what I was
the
going to
adventure
ask you.
labs.
If you could give us a bit of advice for anybody who may be new to finding them or just gets frustrated with them, what's some advice for finding some adventure labs?
Probably the most important piece of information I can give is follow your arrow or follow your map to as close to GZ as you can before you try and answer the question. Resist that temptation that answer pops up, and and you want to go to it right away because you'd like to see the answer. Well, when that pops up, you are at least 60 feet away from it and could be actually 62 miles away from it.
Depending on how
So,
it's set up. Yeah.
so depending on how it's set up. So get to GZ. Now you are standing where the creator wants you to be when he asks the question. Um, Equating it to geocaching, I don't know anybody who is following their GPS or following their cell phone, gets within 60 feet and sticks it in their pocket.
No. Yeah, that's a good
You
point. You want to get
you
to
want
GZ
you want
before
to
you
get
put
to
it down and
GZ
start
before
looking.
you right, or at least get closer. I mean, maybe you start looking when you're 16 feet away because they're not 100% accurate, but I don't know anybody who does it at 60 feet.
That's a
So
good
that,
point. That's a very
and
good
then the
point.
and then the other thing is take the time and read the description. You're doing the creator a favor, but you're doing yourself a favor too. And you're doing yourself a favor if you do one of mine because I'm going to give you some little help to find that location. But you're doing a favor for yourself because you're learning something about the location that the person is taking you.
You're getting the full experience that was intended by reading the description.
You are. Yep. And I think that's about it, except we want to do our cache highlight, which I'm
Yes, we
really
have to do the
excited
cache
about.
highlight. I'm excited to hear about this one as you teased us about it earlier a little bit.
I did. So this is ShareBear 64's The Case of the Fingered Killer AL bonus. And and then the GC code is GC9HJEK. And it's a bonus cache for the Adventure Lab CBM5. It is a sequential because she's telling a story
Okay.
and you are trying to identify who the killer is. She takes you to an area, starts telling you the story. It's hilarious, by the way. Her use of puns and so forth is fantastic. And and you are collecting evidence at each location. When you get to answer the question and you answer the question right, she is presenting additional evidence, a coroner's report, a towing company's report. And
Ah,
all this information is important for you to solve the mystery and be able to get the bonus cache. So it, and she takes you to different areas. Again, she's not, you know, describing Bottle Village right there, but she's taking you to Bottle Village. And yeah, it's just fantastic. And then at the end, at the bonus, she has two sections. One is for the people who love to do mysteries and love to do puzzles and so forth, and she's gives you this little section, and all the information is there. Um, Sandy and Sunny from the Podcaster just did it, and they love puzzles, so they did it the way that it was intended to be done. But for other people, and I think she might have actually put this in just for me, going, Scott, we're never going to be able to get this bonus if I don't do something. So she has a little cheat, and basically the cheat is now you have to read the description and follow directions. So it only took me a couple times to figure that one out, but but it is a fantastic upper level adventure lab, and then everything ties in to get the bonus.
So the bonus cache, did she theme the container to tie in with the story anyway, or is it just
Yes,
a
she did.
standard? Oh,
Yes, she did. And I think that's one thing that you don't that most people aren't appreciating is that where the bonus is hidden is something that she made and installed, and it fits right in She is very, very clever uh, in hiding her and creating her geocaches in that they fit in where they're hidden.
So you could be looking right at it and have no idea you're looking at it. Is that
It's
the type of thing we're talking about?
If you've ever seen like a little sign that flips open and the geocache is behind the sign, that's what she's kind of known for, that kind of cleverness. So yeah,
Oh, now I really want to do this adventure lab, but it's a very long ways from Missouri
it
to
is a
where
very
this
long
is
ways
at.
from Missouri, but when you come out, I'll take you to all the Share Bear 64 geocaches, and you will pretty much be blown away.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I will get out there one of these days because it sounds like some amazing geocaches out there.
It is. And then you're going to Moga, so I'm going to meet you there. So,
Yes, yes. There's a
yeah,
couple people I'm hoping to get to meet in person for the first time at Moga in 2022. So hopefully that works out.
I hope it works out.
I hope it does too. I'm excited for that. Even my kiddo is excited for that. And I have to keep reminding him what it was though, because he went with me and my muggle hubby, he came along with me too to Moga this past year. And I say this past year when this
Right.
airs, it's gonna be 2022. But when we went to Moga 2021, he loved it. He had so much fun. He keeps asking me when we're going to go back to Kentucky. So, so
So did you
he's
do the puzzles? Did you do all the competitions? Did you do all the
so
fun stuff?
we didn't do quite all of the Moga stuff. We actually had to leave Moga early before it was officially ended because we were going to Indiana for some graduations that happened to land on the exact same weekend. So we didn't quite get to experience the competition part of it. So I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to trying to do that in Moga 2022. And my mom, who was originally supposed to go with us in 2021, but unfortunately was not able to because of back issues. She is up and doing better, and the current plan is for her to be there at Moga 2022 with us. So hopefully all goes well. Knock on wood. And
And
we're
you're going to be
really
able to do
excited
the
about it.
and you're going to be able to do the GPS maze for the first time
I
and
hope
get
so.
that
I
icon and
am like really antsy waiting for that registration to become available because I don't know if they're going to limit how many people can do it or how that works. And I want to make sure I get in. I'm really excited about that opportunity.
well, they were able to pull it off at Geo Woodstock in Cincinnati, where they had 7,500 geocachers. So I know that they're going to be able to pull it off this time.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward to getting more information on that when registration for it becomes available.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us some tips and tricks on Adventure Labs here. I really appreciate it. I'm sure people will find, I hope people will find it interesting and helpful. I certainly did. I've got Adventure Lab credit that's been sitting there trying to think of a good use for it. And now the gears are turning with all the possibilities.
And well, very good. If I can motivate you to get that credit out there and used, and anybody else, then my job is done. But also, I really appreciate the opportunity. I think it's so important that people realize that there is an alternative to doing adventure labs when you don't have a data internet connection. I think that's really important, and I appreciate that you're giving me the opportunity to spread that word.
I appreciate you sharing that with us because when you mentioned that to me prior to this interview, I was floored that there was a way to do it offline. And I'm really excited that we got to go over that and share that with everybody listening, because I think they're going to find it interesting as well.
And practice it before you need it.
Yes. And I will definitely have the links in the show notes to the instructions for that and the other documents, the Route 66 series web page as well. Is there a web page for the Highway 1 series?
There is. It's California, CA Highway 1 GC.org.
Okay, I'll add that as well. So
Thank you.
people can check out these awesome adventure labs that are going on. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Geocache Adventures with me, Shadow Dragon 1. Have you heard of FTF Magazine? It's the magazine for geocachers. It is full of articles and photos, all sent in by geocachers like you. In fact, some of the guests that you've heard on this show have submitted articles to Geocacher Magazine. They have all kinds of neat stuff and publish achievements that are sent in by geocachers. So if you have an achievement you want to celebrate, send it in and they will add it to the magazine. It is really cool. I recommend it. I subscribe to it myself and I love it. Go check it out at ftfgeo.com. That's ftfgeo.com. And let them know Shadow Dragon 1 sent you. Would you like to be a guest on the show? Do you have a topic you'd like to hear more about? Let me know at geocacheadventures.org. Go over to the contact page and you can send me a message there. It has the podcast email that you can email me to, or you can reach out to Shadow Dragon 1 on geocaching.com. Geocacheadventures.org also has a store page now. You can go over there, geocacheadventures.org, and click on the store page in the menu bar and check it out. Got some great stuff over there for you.